So joining me here now is Paul Murphy. Paul, your assessment of that match here today between Kilkenny and Galway?
Yeah, interesting match. I think both teams will take something going forward really until the next game potentially where they'll be playing the Leinster final. But look, there was interest all around, some of the matchups there as well. Eoin Cody coming away with 6 points on Jack Grealish, and he started off really well. Brian Concannon, who, I suppose didn't light it up last week, had 1-3 within the first 15 minutes again here this week. And the likes of Evan Island grew into the game, particularly in the second half. Galway will be happy, 14 different scorers from my count. Kilkenny with 10 different scorers. So there's lots to pick through for both teams, really. But I suppose that the game kicked at times and there was a bit of a spark. But coming for hopefully or potentially a Leinster final between these two teams, I'll expect a bit more fire from both sides.
You were looking at Eoin Cody today, hitting 6 points, I think it was. And like any time you're getting 6 points from play, you're looking at man of the match status. But Galway had a few match winners of their own there. Brian Concannon with an excellent early goal.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 points from play from in any match is a great return. Certainly, Derek Ling will be delighted with that, with Eoin Cody contributing that way. You see TJ steady from the frees, good spread of scores as well. Even as far as back as Mikey Butler chipping in with a point, David Blanchfield. So there was a good spread across the team. But like we were saying, Galway will be happy enough as well once Evan Island got into the groove, and particularly the subs. The subs that came on. Jason Flynn got a point, Declan McLaughlin got a point, Liam Collins got a point. Henry will be extremely happy with that. So, it's great to have one or two players really firing and taking on the bulk of the scores. But when you have the spread coming across the pitch, it makes it a lot harder for the next team you're approaching to kind of say, right, we have one or two players we want to tie down, but these lads can score from anywhere. So that's something that Henry will be delighted with having 14 different scores, and Kilkenny at 10 as well. So Derek will be satisfied with that also.
We asked Henry there afterwards about Conor Whelan's substitution because he's one of their star players. He said it was a tactical move, but the sub got the equaliser.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I was looking at it there. Conor Whelan, he was brought off, and McLaughlin comes on 69th minute. You'd be kind of looking at it. Maybe you leave Conor Whelan on, he might get a ball. The ball might break off, and that's the kind of things they're looking for. But it just goes to show you, and the players for Galway will have a look at this as well to say that, look, regardless who we think we are or if we have a reputation for maybe getting a few scores, if Henry sees fit that you're going to come off for someone else to come on, and particularly even for the subs, that Henry obviously saw whatever he sees in training there, that there might be a gap for McLaughlin to come on there, and he might have suited the last few minutes of the game. And it paid dividends in the end, because the subs that he did introduce got the scores, and it was important as well for Galway to stay in touch. And then in the last few minutes that they were in touch, they were able to close in on them scores. I mean, they had 12 wides across the game, which again Henry will look to improve on, but 12 wides isn't bad hitting either. When teams hit up further into the teens and into the 20s, that's concerned then. But he'll be very happy that introducing a man for Conor Whelan, that it paid off in the end, and Galway subs will also look at that going forward, that Henry's not afraid to make decisions that way.
You've hurled with Henry Shefflin, you hurled with Derek Ling. Did you feel that was something added today, or is it just for supporters? How does all that? How is it approached by the players, the management, all that?
Yeah, to be honest, you nearly forget about it at this stage. I know the novelty at the start when Henry was going to Galway, I suppose, was really just that Henry had taken a big inter-county job, but you kind of nearly forgot coming into the grounds here today that, you had Henry on the far sideline and Derek. At the end of the day, Henry was standing out there today, as a Galway man, I suppose you want to call him, for today. He wanted Galway to win. He wanted to put their best foot forward. Yeah, Derek and himself used to play against each other, but I don't think that probably even came into their mind today, because it doesn't play any factor on the game whatsoever. Even the likes of, Eoin Cody being related to Henry Shefflin and all these things, I suppose they're side stories in some way. They don't really play into the game, and I guarantee with the intensity that game was played, players don't have time to think about these things in the run into it.
Yeah, and both teams just rock on now. It's next weekend, next game.
That's it. No major scalp for either team. Draw game. At the final whistle there, there's kind of, considering it was intense coming into the last few minutes, a draw game kind of leaves with a funny taste in the mouth afterwards. So, look, both teams will be just looking to kick on at this stage. Wexford and Dublin now will also be looking to say, okay, maybe a draw game, maybe that's an opportunity for one of us to step in here and take a scalp, and that's the way they look at it. But for Kilkenny or Galway, both teams wanted to win. They want to come away with maybe even the psychological battle being won, because look, I suppose the neutral supporter will look at this and go, we're expecting Galway and Kilkenny to be in the Leinster final. This was an opportunity maybe for either team to take a scalp. Didn't happen. So again, I suppose it's going to make for harder reading. If these two teams meet again, it'll make for harder reading, because there was no obvious better team out there today.
Yeah, you fancy both of these sides for the Leinster final, Paul?
Yeah, look, just on form, really. Both sides have really strong panels. They've been competing really well over the last few years. You look at Galway last year, pushing Limerick right to the pin of the collar in the semi-final, and Kilkenny similarly in the All-Ireland final. Limerick being the standard bearers at the moment, so when you're measuring it off that, they are the two best teams in Leinster at the moment. But look, as Wexford are kind of getting their bandwagon up and going now as well, and they'll be happy to see the likes of Lee Chin and these lads coming back for injury. And we came here last year, and Wexford, surprisingly took a scalp off Kilkenny. So Kilkenny and Galway will be saying, okay, we are the favourites, but if we take our mind off it for a second, we leave ourselves open for being bet. But at the moment, it's hard to look past Kilkenny and Galway at the moment.
A word on the game Saturday evening between the All Ireland champions Limerick and Clare. Helter Skelter.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what you even take from it. It was just an incredible game. I certainly wasn't expecting the reaction from Clare after last week's performance. You'd be expecting the team maybe to be a small bit jarred after it. But they came with huge intensity. Their tackling, and this is a compliment, their tackling was borderline in that they were just going so intense in. Sometimes it worked for them, sometimes it didn't. They gave away a few frees. But in order to turn over Limerick, we've been speaking about it. That's what a team has to attempt to do. And it's not an easy thing. But, it was an incredible game. It's one of the best games in the last 5 years. Potential to be the game of the summer. Hopefully another two teams will come along and try and overturn that. But it was just an unbelievable game. And particularly Clare in the last few minutes that they didn't waver. They closed out the game really well. They got their scores. The likes of Tony Kelly popping up, and scores all over the pitch. Shane O'Donnell was excellent, and there was just anywhere they looked on the night, they found him. And John Conlon, David Fitzgerald, you could pick so many players from it. But I think everybody afterwards, you could see the reaction on social media. It just got the blood up. You knew this was championship hurling, and remarkable. Clare just deserves such credit. But at the end of the day, Limerick aren't out of any championship. This could be a chance to press a reset button for Limerick, and the next team that faces Limerick now could be in for a fair challenge.
Brilliant. And just finally, Paul, championship is in full swing here. So far, who has impressed you? Is it Kilkenny and Galway from today, or Clare?
Yeah, I suppose it's a tough one, really. The only team that's sitting there now at the moment who will be fully happy are Tipperary, only after playing one game. I think every team at this stage will be unhappy at certain parts. Clare, how they performed against Tipperary, letting in a few goals. Limerick also then after losing to Clare last night. So I think every team at this stage is kind of looking, going, geez, we have things to improve on here, but we're doing a lot of positive stuff. So obviously Clare, off the bounce of Limerick, they'll take huge confidence from that. Waterford put in a great performance against Limerick, but at the end of the day came away with nothing. They're, as we speak, I suppose they're looking to take a scalp off Cork as well. So we haven't gone deep enough into this championship yet for any team to be saying, we're really laying a claim down for this. One or two more games will really make it take shape. But for the neutral or for the hurling supporter, it's wide open at the moment. And I think that's really what we all want.